The things that you have in your heart that you think are impossible are often just milestones waiting to get accomplished if you can push those limits. Everything was impossible until somebody else did it. So you can either hang around people that tell you it can be done, or hang around those that inspire possibilities. Welcome to the Inspiring Possibilities Podcast. Weekly interviews with entrepreneurs, artists, those that inspire possibilities, and I'm your host, Julian Marion. All right, well, welcome to the Inspiring Possibilities Podcast. This is Julian, and I have an amazing guest today, Jason Quinn. Jason, welcome.
What's up, man? It's great to be here with you guys today.
For sure, man. You know, it's funny, and so whenever I knew that you and I were going to connect, I was just like, man, why does he look so much like Pow Wow? Which is out here in Houston, Texas. I don't know if you ever got this before.
That's funny. That's funny. I mean, you know, it's whatever. I'm here for it.
So anyway, I mean, listen, Jason is like the definition of an entrepreneur, and he's the definition of an achiever, right? If you were to, it's like you know that whenever somebody is an achiever, whenever they have like multiple title, right, or they've done multiple things, right? So for example, Jason is a mentor, he's a speaker, he's a coach, he has like a Christianpreneur group, where you coach, I believe, entrepreneurs, right? They're with the Christian focus. And obviously he has also like a program that he goes through schools, and deliver. So he does a lot of things, and that's why he's an achiever.
Oh man. And the thing about it too, man, is like, when you start to like really discover who you are, like you find these things that like overlap, and then you just can't help yourself because you're like, I'm actually
Can do it.
taking my impact to like an exponential place. Like that's just where I'm going to take it,
No,
That's where I'm going with
100%. I can 100% relate, to it. And my wife is always the one to, to pull me back a little bit, on like, but did you really maximize this one place right now? You're trying to go here, but did you really maximize this one place right here? Right here?
Oh man.
So totally, you live in my world. I totally understand it. But I kind of gave you like this overview, right, of kind of like all the things that that you're doing. But can you go just a little bit more? Like if you had to kind of introduce yourself to, to the audience, like what would you tell them?
Yeah, man, I'll never forget the day that my parents walked out the doors, got in their car, and they drove off, leaving me halfway across the country in the only program for at-risk youth that would even take me in. And I'm telling you this because I was absolutely hopeless. Like leading up to this, I did a lot of terrible things, made a lot of terrible choices. I was the poster boy for what you would say is at risk. I mean, just all the things, a lot of my own choosing. But there I was, broken and hopeless, and I gave up on life. And then this guy steps in and he notices me and he starts to say things to me that, I'd become an expert at like pushing people away and, just kind of getting people out of my life because I had so many people say things like, man, you're going to be hopeless. You're never going to live to see 18. You're just another statistic, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I started to really like believe that stuff. And so this guy, he like shows up and instead of seeing this messy kid, he saw a kid who was in a mess. And here's the thing. He was one of those dudes. He's like 6'4", 300, like none of your business pounds, like big old country boy. And
Right.
he just like stood by me on my worst moments and my best moments unconditionally. And he taught me how to be a man. And when I tried my hardest to push him away, like he didn't move. He didn't leave. And he stayed with it. And that's what opened my heart to like want to hear this, anything that he had to say. And when I started opening my mind to some of these things, and I drastically changed my life, right? Like one next step at a time, it was this journey from like dropout to dream chasing, like from hopelessly stuck to really feeling unstoppable. But I tell you that because that's what really sparked all of this inside of me. That not only was there more available for me, but there's a lot of people who just don't know, like I didn't know. And there's a lot of people who feel stuck and hopeless, like I felt stuck and hopeless. And not only do they not know what to do, they don't care anymore. And I realized that if one voice in my life could make a massive difference. Well, I have one voice, maybe I can use my one voice to make the difference in somebody else's life. And that's what really started this journey, man. And that's kind of where it was birthed from. So it's deep and there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of brokenness that it comes out of. Um, but it became this big, huge, like bright beacon of hope, not only for me, but for those that I get to speak to, get in front of, encourage, speak life over, and mentor and inspire. And man, I'm just so grateful that this man didn't give up on me, and that God didn't give up on me in my worst moments. So that's kind of the origin, man, of kind of like where a lot of the heart behind any of this came from. It wasn't like I was like looking for a career path, or I wasn't looking for some niche to get into, man. I just went from like hopelessness to full of hope, and then recognizing that hopelessness is a real problem for a lot of people. So I just want to make a difference, man.
Yeah. So I'm asking the question, right? Like, who is that man? Like, who's that man? Like,
Uh,
everybody's wondering. Okay, so that man. Who's the man? Is it a football guy? He looks 6'4", 300. Like, must be a football guy. Like, who's the man?
the thing is, he probably could have been, but nobody's gonna know this guy because he's one of those just humble dudes who just like doing what he does, and it's like low key behind the scenes. His name's Darren, and he he was one of those guys that I was like so in your face, arrogant, cuss you out, like, and he would just look at me and he would just be firm when I needed it, but he didn't budge, man. Like I couldn't get rid of him. And man, after a while I was like, I don't ever want to get rid of him. And he really made a big, big impact on my life. And and there's other people, man, along the way, but
Of course,
that was
yeah.
the beginning, at least for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Like you have those different, and I think we all, especially as men, right? Those had those men that came at different moment. Like I remember for me, one of my coaches that came in, and it's something that I took on in other aspect of my life, right? But I was kind of the same thing, right? I was kind of getting in troubles for a lot of different things at school, but still having good grades, but still getting in trouble because of like so much energy, right, in your body that you're like, I can't stand still. Like I just want to go and play. I want to go and get moving, and then you develop a little ego. And I remember that in talk back, right, debate, everything has to be debated, and that coach told me, he's just like, man, and like stop talking. Like you're never going to be great if you keep on just like challenging every single instruction that you're getting. He's like, so if you want to be great, like stop talking and listen to me. I promise you I'll take you, at that time, like I wanted to be on the national team, and I
Yeah.
was like not recruited at all. And he's like, I'm gonna take you there, but like stop talking and listen. And I was just like, okay. But he spoke so directly, so in my face, it broke through all the noise that I had, you know what I mean, like in my head. And eventually
Yeah.
I got the national team and all that stuff. But I still remember, that moment. So I think those are really important. So quickly, what is something that that people don't know about you? Like people, they can't research you, but what is something that is not seen there that people don't know about you?
Well, I'm going to answer that, but let me take it back to what you said, because I think there's something like super profound in what you were talking around there.
Okay.
And that is like so many times students are told to be quiet and listen. And that's and there's elements of that that are super true. Like if you and I didn't actually sit down and listen, we wouldn't have been able to take in these profound truths.
Yeah.
But like on the other side of it, one thing that I wish that more mentors did was create space for students to talk and have a voice
Yeah. Yeah.
and to express themselves, because so many times we say, be quiet, listen, be quiet, listen, be quiet, listen. Students are told this over and over and over. And then we're like, all right, cool, you graduated high school, go out there and be successful. But we've been telling them, for so long to be quiet and listen and just take instruction only, and not balancing it with this empowerment of discovering who they are and giving them a voice. And anyway, I was just hearing you talk about it, man, thinking about my own life. Like it really was this dance between sitting down and listening, but then also giving spaces to like talk and communicate and express things that are good and things that are not good, and have a safe space to be able to like navigate some of that and process it. So anyway,
I'm about to say, I was like, Jason, did you just grab my thing and just throw it in my face? Now everybody's gonna be like, come on, Julie, you didn't see that one? You
yeah.
didn't see it. You took my face and turned it in. No,
Oh
but
man,
I
but
mean,
it's the
I do.
dance, bro. It really is,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
you
I agree with
need
you.
both of those elements.
Yeah. You need to give space to for them to be able to, I don't know if you know or not, I have 6 kids. right? I have four boys and
Stop
two
it.
girls, and so that means that there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of debating. There's a lot of having to be the judge in
Man.
this house, and you cannot just have the authoritarian voice, right? Because
Yeah, that
people,
doesn't work.
no, and my wife is amazing at that, at being able to go, because she lived in a space that was a little bit more of that authoritarian voice, right?
Hmm.
That was there, and so being able to create space for them to actually express like what they have to express,
Yeah.
right? Whether
Yeah.
right, wrong, but just express what you have to express, and that's something that I had to grow into through kind of like her coaching on like being able to listen to them, whatever it is that they have to say, and then being able to coach them, like I said, like coach something out of them, and then coach something up, so coach out and coach up.
That's so good.
And that was important. So what is
What?
something people don't know about you?
Hold on, hold on. We're gonna get there. I promise. We're gonna
He's
get there.
like,
Hold on,
we're
hold
gonna
on.
go back
How old are
one
your
step.
kids? We gonna get there. I'm so sorry.
You're good. Go. Let's
No,
go.
because listen, my guy, I got 6 kids. I don't know if, I bet you didn't know that about me either.
No, I did. There we go. Here it is.
My guy, yeah. Yeah. No, I know all about everything that you
Oh,
were
here we go.
saying. My guy, I get it 100%. Like, it's wild. It's the greatest privilege of my life, but also one of the greatest challenges at times
Mhm.
because people want to beat their chest to be authoritarian, but to your point, it just doesn't work. And at home is like where you can model. I mean, listen, this stuff is caught, not taught, right? Like if you what you model, you could teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. So like when you're in those environments, the way you handle it is everything because you're modeling to them like how to go navigate that at school, in life, at work later, right? Like that stuff's super important. So, dude, that's crazy, man. I didn't know about you.
There we go. Now you know that part
All
about me
right, all
too.
right. We can move on. Something people don't know about
Okay, so
me.
we got that one out the way. Like, most people might not know that. That you have 6 kids. So I think that kind of leads into my next question, right? Which is because a lot of people don't understand, right? And I always say, hey, it's funny that we're all on the same planet, we all have different perspective, but we're all playing a different game, right? Because there's a very different perspective if somebody has, and that starts with kind of like the way that you're thinking. Right. So like what is something that you believe in that most people don't?
I mean, it's interesting because in the circle that I spend my time in,
Uh-huh.
I feel like everybody believes what I believe because
Mhm.
I'm around people in circles that are high caliber that we always talk about mindset and we're always talking about beliefs and perspectives. One of the things that I believe that I don't hear a lot of people talk about is that your beliefs 1000% of the time determine your behaviors. I hear a lot of people in the motivational speaking world talk about your behaviors all the time. You need to do this, you need to do that, and you need to do this, and I know that they mean super well. Like, I'm not bashing them at all. It's just that one of the things I've discovered is that every single behavior is rooted in a belief. I mean, listen, man, cows moo, dogs bark, fish swim. People who think a certain way about themselves act a certain way about themselves. I mean, there's no way around that. And the story that you tell yourself is the story that gets lived out. So, I spend way more time on beliefs than I do behaviors because behaviors, man, if you spend your whole day, your energy, your life trying to modify somebody's behaviors, one, I mean, that's a shallow experience
Right.
of what could be. And it just doesn't work. That's not it. That's not, you're not going to live your maximum optimized, best possible experience if you're walking around just focus on behaviors. So
Right.
for
No,
me, it's
I
about
love that.
beliefs, man.
I love that. I think if you can change somebody's belief system, like that is first, it's not an easy thing to do, but once it's changed, like you said, like there's a lot of um that behavior that change. You know, I think a couple weeks ago, I spoke at a men's conference, and it was about they had a progression from boy, man to king, right? Boy, man, king.
Oh, you were there,
Um,
Boy Man King? That's cool.
yeah, yep. And so I spoke about kind of like how everybody wants to be a king, but not every king is a free man,
Mm.
right? Because the king is like, like especially in the male empowerment space, right? Like it's about like, a lot of people are going back to like this, being manly and a king and kingdom and queen and protect your kingdom, stay with kings, and you know what I mean? Like a lot of that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's understanding that a lot of those people that, quote unquote kings are just not free, right? Because they
Yeah.
still have so many things that are, shackles in so many spaces, so many places. you
Yeah.
know, and that they're still caught there. But it's like whenever you can change the belief behind who you are, where you are, then suddenly like this paradigm shift that happened, and people never go back to who they were, so I
Yeah.
think that's something important.
Kings, I think one of the greatest responsibilities that kings have that make them kings is their ability to serve their kingdom. It's
Mm,
not the
yeah,
beat my chest, do as I say. It's the desire and the heart to see their kingdom elevated, to lift up those around them. And, that's real king talk. You know what I'm saying? And I think the journey is so hard because, there's a statistic out there that says we think about 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those are negative, and worse than that, 95% of those are on repeat, like a bad playlist all day long. And it's the experiences that we've had, the stories we've told ourselves, things that people have said to us, the way we've been labeled and conditioned. So to sit in one seminar, one workshop, one conference, one event and hear some truth, it's not enough. Like we have to have the right habits, people, places, routines put in our life to help us elevate our mindset to start believing the right things, right? Like, you know how
right.
it is, man. Like, you're looking at getting a new car, and all of a sudden, everywhere you go, you see that car,
Yeah,
and it's not like magically they just appeared. It's just that you told your brain that it was valuable. And so now it sifts through all of the other stuff to find that one thing you told it was valuable. And when you train your brain and your mindset to start elevating and value the right things, the right people, the right way to live, all of that, like your brain sifts through all the crazy and it finds those things. And that's why two people can look at the same exact scenario and one walks away complaining about how terrible life is as a victim, and the other person walks away pumped because they recognize an opportunity. It's literally the difference. And I just think that that's so huge, man. It's cool that you got to go speak at that event. I mean, I really respect those guys, man. I think Coach Crumb's awesome. And I love everything that's happening there. So that's really cool.
yeah, it was amazing. A lot of discussions, and a lot of men's life trajectory changed, which is, to me, that's important. Especially, I mean, you're somebody with 6 kids. There's not many people that have as many kids as we have, and that are as, I want to say, driven, and also wanting to move. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And want to do at a high level, and it takes a different belief system, right? Because you know
Yes.
a lot of men, they're just like with 2 kids, like, I don't even know, man. I'm struggling with one, or I'm
Oh, yeah.
struggling with
Oh,
two.
yeah.
Like I have no clue, and you don't look like you're dying, because you can see some people, they just look beat up, right? Like they run their business,
Hmm.
and they have kids, and then you look at them, and it looks like they're just like holding on, and you can
Hmm.
tell all the demons, you can tell all the pain, that some of them are still living through, and obviously that gets passed on to the kids, because they're still living kind of like those shackles, in so many spaces and places in their life. So
And
it
the
was it was
and the truth
amazing.
is, you remember this. Look, when you first had two kids, you're like, yo, two kids is tough. And it is when you're in that space. But
Right.
the difference is you and I make choices every day to elevate our mindset. You and I make choices every day to believe different things about ourselves. And so when most people run into the opposition that makes them quit, we see opportunity and keep pushing.
Right. And you protect like how, because you know that your mind, can be conditioned by so many
Hmm.
things to protect, and you stay within the right circles.
That's right.
I think that's huge. So obviously, kind of like in this journey, right, of fatherhood, entrepreneur, right? Like I'm sure you've had like many, many challenges, right? That I think maybe some of them felt like, I don't know how, God, like I don't. This is just really like I don't know how, but you overcame
Hmm.
them, right? So can you share like an example of a time when you kind of had that crazy challenge, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. I mean, man, those stories are actually endless. I feel like every time I get brought up to a Red Sea, God's like, cool, do you still trust me? And I'm like, yeah, but this Red Sea looks bigger. And he's like, do you still trust me? And he's waiting to see if I'm gonna trust him through it. And every time I trust him, the next Red Sea, there's more reward, but there's also more weight to it. And recently stepped away from ministry full time on staff at a pretty big church, multi-site church, 5, 6 campuses, launching two more this next year, and very healthy. I was on the central student director role, meaning I sat at the seat that got to oversee with my team a few of us that kind of created the vision, strategy, content, everything for
Mhm,
all
mhm.
students, leaders everywhere at every campus. And just a lot of people, man, and a lot going on. It was really good, but just kind of was at a fork in the road where it was like I actually can't do this and go do everything else that I'm currently doing.
Right.
And that was a little bit of a Red Sea moment where there was uncertainty. It wasn't like I had everything cushy cush and it was just an easy, like, I'm out, see ya. There's a lot of emotions involved with that. I had to make sure that my identity wasn't wrapped up in what I did, but who I am. I know that I'm a beloved son, that I'm loved for who I am, not what I do. And I had to be willing to walk away from that to step into the next, which was the unknown. I had to be willing to say, God, I'm gonna go with you into the unknown on some levels. And just navigate what I can't see by faith. I mean, really it is that. It's like, bro, God asks us all the time, like, man, trust what you can't see as if it was. Like, can you believe me for that? And for some people it looks different, but it always feels massive because of where you currently are in life on your journey. And for me, with 6 kids, that's not an easy jump. That to the world looks insane.
Right.
You walk away from all the benefits and, salary, yada, 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 and everything that and you're good at and you're comfortable with, to pursue something greater, because I believe that where God leads is better than where I've been. And I
Yeah.
trust that at every step. So yeah, that was a really hard turn. And I'll tell you, there's days at home where, it was super amazing and peaceful. And then there's other days where it's like, we don't actually know what we're going to do next.
Mm.
And there's like meltdowns. And we're like, we got to go pray, man. We got to trust God. We got to keep grinding. We're going to hustle. We're going to listen. We work like everything depends on us. And we trust like everything depends on God. And then we're faithful to it. Right. So
Right.
yeah, man, there's a lot of
So
those kinds
it's
of
funny.
stories, but
No, I mean it's funny you say that because I feel like I've had close to the same journey, right? Um, I think for me, I remember exactly that moment. Right, I actually recorded videos and I'm gonna post them on Instagram for people to see. Because I remember that moment, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna document this, right?
mm,
So I was there and working, higher ed. I'm in admission. I'm also teaching, you know, undergrad business courses and stuff like that. And I started having, I was like, oh, I want to start a business. Like that's kind of what, we want to do, on the side. But then I had this pool of like, no, 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 you need to go like full, all in. And I was just like, okay, listen. I'm like, I remember that. I was like, okay, God, listen, I'm gonna need a clear sign explained
hmm
that that's what I need to do. Right. Because although I can take a lot of risk, I'm also, whenever you have like big decisions to make, like I'm going to be a little more careful in what I'm doing. And so I had this one, it was like one of my mentors, Evan Carmichael. And so, he had this channel where he does like the top 10 rules of success, right? And so, inside of it, Evan, somehow that day, like it was Mitt Romney. It was a Mitt Romney stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm be open to everything. And he goes and he has this one thing that, and I knew it was for me because I just had goosebump like right away. Like it was just, things stopped and it connected. And it was pretty much him talking about what entrepreneurship is, right?
mm,
And so he said, entrepreneurship is like that verse in the Bible, right? And he says, go out, launch into the deep, cast down your nets, and they'll be full, right? And then he explained, it's like, you go and you launch. Doesn't mean you halfway go, tiptoes. No, you go with velocity, with force into the deep. Like the further you go, if you be on a boat, the further you go, the colder it gets. Like that's just facts, right? It gets
yeah.
colder. You look down. Suddenly you can see fishes, and then you get it
hmm
super dark. And you're like, all the scary movies I've ever seen about, sharks and krakens and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm debating on like whether or not today is the day that something is gonna come out, like because I can't see nothing,
mm,
right? And then you do the work. You throw your nets, not knowing whether or not there's something that's gonna come out. What direction should I go? Am I far enough? And he breaks that down, and I'm like, okay, God. Like I was like,
yeah.
okay, God. And then I give my 2-week notice. and I went full-time entrepreneurship, and it was amazing. But then, like I still had things that I did not get out of, my system, and so the journey didn't go as planned. We ended up having to sell the house because we didn't have any more money, like all that journey that, happens with just sometimes when you jump into entrepreneurship. But it was a build up to be able to create, something amazing. And then later on, like probably 10 years later, the next half of that verse came out, right?
Mm,
Which was, okay, cool. Now we've had like, business success. Because like, listen, now I'm gonna need you to put this down and follow me, and we'll be fishers of men.
okay.
Right. And I was just like, at first, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I am not about to go into ministry. that was my initial one. I was like, oh no, you calling me to like just go to, no, I'm not doing ministry work. Right. Because
That's
my
funny,
vision was
man.
just pretty much that it was like, hey, you wants me to be a pastor. Like, oh no, God, like I can't do
Yeah.
that. Until I got models from others. It's like, no, you can do ministry work inside of your business, and I'm
Right.
gonna need you to go and help like kings be liberated. Like those
Mm-hmm.
that are there and they're strong and they're leaders and they're tough, but they have nobody to turn to just go and share. I'm gonna need you to create a brotherhood where other men can be with each other and just like share the real, the raw, the ugly, like the real stuff, and not feel like they
Come
have
on.
to hide and sedate and you know what I mean, and be judged because like
Yeah.
as guys, like we go through some real stuff, some real struggles,
Yeah.
and when you can go and share with other brothers, like hey, this is what's happening, you know, then you
Yeah.
can feel like one, you're not crazy. Two, you don't have to suffer in silence. And then three, you can rise back up, and
Well,
so
and outside
that's
of that,
crazy.
I mean, you know as well as I do, man, like that's not normal. I mean, no dude is raised in that environment where it's safe and acceptable and normal to just have a safe space to talk and be real. Like that's not, I mean, that's not how I was raised, man. And I
Right.
had to bottle up all my stuff and suppress all my stuff and deal with all my stuff, and then when my life exploded, people blame me for it. You know what I mean? And I love that you're doing that. I mean, I think it's dope that, you're carrying hope outside the walls, man. I mean, I think a lot of people are like you. They think that initially ministry means I got to go take a role at the church. But
Right.
when you look at the life of Jesus, man, this guy was just out with the people, man. He was meeting them where they were with what they thought they needed so he could offer them what they really needed. And, he just did life with them. And I think we need more people to carry hope into the spaces of life where they live.
I agree with you. It's just like again, what your belief, right? We talked about that earlier in the episode. Like what's your belief?
Hmm.
Right? What do you believe something is? And also I just did not have those models,
Hmm.
right? Those models of men that were still doing, you know, their ministry work without just saying, got this, got this, got this, got this, got this. You should.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because like,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, it's just like, this just doesn't connect, and they put their armor back up like so fast,
Well,
and
and
they're
that's
willing
not
to suffer in
Jesus'
silence.
message. Jesus' message was never like, yo, try harder, do better. Like that was never his message, man. When you look at like even the one of my favorite stories, Luke 15, the prodigal son, the extravagant father, like, he's like out looking for his lost son who's out wasting his life on all the crazy living. Like he's looking every day. When he finally sees him, he lifts up his robe and he runs to his son, which in that culture is a shameful thing to do as a man. And as a man, he wore that shame instead of his son and
Mm,
embraced him. And then
yeah.
when the son goes to give his excuses and apology, the father cuts him off and declares, get this, his identity over him, beliefs. He starts to speak beliefs over him, reminding him that he's his son. Like, bro, like that's it. That's what we're called to do. I mean, that's why I speak at schools. That's why I encourage teachers. That's why I mentor people, because like so many already are on that repeat playlist of 95% negativity. And I want to declare life, man. I want to declare hope. I want to declare purpose over people and remind them of who they actually are, not the labels they've been given because of behaviors that they've had or past mistakes.
That's awesome, man. So talking about kind of like, that positive mindset, right? Like how do you maintain like your positive mindset and stay focused on your goals?
Yeah, that's really good, man. Every day when I get up, I have a few things that I do as part of my morning routine, and
Right.
that's reading my Bible, that's praying, that's putting on some worship music, it's reviewing my top goals and my elevation statements, and those are like the most extreme opposite positive version of like some of my limiting beliefs. And so I write those down and I speak them over myself and remind myself of who I am. And then I'll tune into some motivational speakers that I like, or a channel on YouTube that I like, and just really
Mm.
reinforce my beliefs. Because the truth is, this is a daily work, and I feel like our mind is kind of like muscles. Like the more you work them and condition them, the better they are, the stronger they are. But the less active you become, your body starts to decondition. And I feel like our beliefs are like that, the exact same way, but they're just under more of attack because the stimulus every single day, the negativity every single day via people, social media, your environment, work, whoever, family, sometimes like it's a complete assault. So like you have to, that's how I do it for me. And then obviously, obviously I have boundaries in place for like who I give my time to, and where I spend that time, and what
Right.
I'll listen to, um, to guard my own mind, right? Like the Bible even teaches that, like, guard your heart because out of it flow every issue of life. So I got
Mm.
to do that.
Yeah. So like, so the number one thing is routine. When you keep
Yeah,
that
a
routine,
healthy,
when
the
you kind
right
of have
routine though.
the right routine, yeah. So you have you
Yeah,
armored up, and you can just like move because at that point you're
yeah,
like you're full. It's awesome, man.
yeah,
It's the same thing for me. I have a pretty stacked morning routine, and with 6 kids, I has to start early. But
yeah, yep,
if I want to make sure that I can be present and and there for them. So that's awesome. So how do you
yeah.
this is I think especially when we're talking about like entrepreneurship and we're talking about fatherhood and we're talking about having a big family, right? Like not many in this day and age, family of 8
Mm,
moving around, right? Like I
mm-hmm.
think that's always interesting when you move with family of 8 people are looking at you like what is like unicorn, unicorn, unicorn,
Bruh.
you know?
We
Um,
pull into the zoo and they're like, "Hey, what school you with?" I'm
yeah.
like, I just start making up names now. I'm just like, I don't know,
It's funny. So
whatever.
how do you balance? Like how do you balance kind of like the taking action towards like what you want to achieve, but also being like open to new opportunities? Because there's really that moment of like you have to be laser focused to be present for the kids, present for your wife, So how do you balance kind of like that, taking action towards what you want to do, but also being open to new opportunities,
I think that's interesting because one of the things that entrepreneurs struggle with just by nature is shiny object syndrome.
right?
And with that there's always new opportunities. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges of entrepreneurs who feel like they're struggling or failing because they kind of jump at a lot of things and they don't ever really hone in on and make any one thing great. And
Mm,
because of that, they're not able to actually move ahead. So for me, when it comes down to decision making for me, I have a few things built into my life, and one of those is my values. They're like, I really believe that the values of your heart become the culture of your life, and the culture of your life is what the people around you experience, not what you say it is. And I want to make sure that the values of my life, they're like the bumpers, the guardrails, if you will, that they always kind of push me back into the center of the lane of my mission and what I'm called to do with my life. Um, so when a new opportunity comes my way, of course, like I'm optimistic and open-minded by nature. Like that's just, I believe that everything is possible and I'm always open to stuff, but I have to filter it through, does this align with my mission or does it take away from my mission? And does this align with my family or does it take away from my family? Those are the two big filters for me. Because it could align with my mission, but it actually squeezes out my family time and now I'm
right.
unhealthy. So now it actually takes away from both my family and my mission. And, there are some things like you said, I have multiple titles, right? That's because those multiple titles all are in alignment. All my arrows are heading in the same direction. So I have momentum and unity. So I can have velocity. I'm not doing a bunch of weird separate things that pull me in a bunch of different directions in a bunch of different spaces. So they overlap enough that it allows me to operate with excellence and honor my family and live a life that maybe isn't balanced. I think sometimes we get tripped up on the word balance, like we want this perfect balance. I don't know if that exists in life. I think of it more like healthy rhythms, where I can have really high quality experiences, right? Quality time with my family. That doesn't always mean quantity, by the way,
Right.
but I can have quality in each of those environments because of the way that it's set up for me, right? The alignment and the arrows in the same direction, and just understanding my mission, my values, the guardrails and bumpers that keep me headed towards the same direction. So, yeah, opportunities come all the time. I mean, I get DMs every day. Hey, are you open to this? Hey, you open to that? And I'm just kind of like, nah. And it's because they don't align. They don't line up. It's pulling me in another direction. Even if it's dope, even if it's a great program, I'm like, sorry, man. It's just I had to step away from one of my coaching programs because it was the same thing. It was just part of it was pulling me in a different direction. I'm like, this is just going against more, even though it's great, it's actually incredible, but it's just pulling me away. And I need to be in alignment. And so it helps me set good boundaries.
No, that's awesome. My wife is her number one love language is quality time. So I'm starting to learn more, into what makes quality time, because it's a very challenging one. What is quality time for one is not quality time for the other one. And
Yeah, that's true.
especially when you have a bigger family, each one of your kids, are little, little individuals
Hmm.
with their own
That's
definition
right.
of what it is, what something means to them, and so that's why sometimes we use the word here is like, hey, would that make you feel loved? Right,
Yeah.
because sometimes like you think you're doing something that's going to make you feel loved, but it's really like, no, they sometimes like, no, I feel like that's what you should do. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, ouch, like I
Oh,
thought it was
yeah.
going to make you feel loved, versus no, this I feel like that's what
Oh,
you should
marriage
do.
was my biggest teacher for that one and still is, by the way. Like, I don't know how many dudes listen to this can relate, but like your wifey says, hey, I don't feel loved. And then in your mind, you're like, but I did this, I did that, I did this, I did this,
Like the
and she's
service.
like, yeah, but that don't make me feel loved. And then you got to go back and be like, oh snap, like the way I receive love is not how she receives love. And then you got to learn. So
Yeah.
that forced me to start identifying right away for my kids, like what their love language is, so that, I can try to, and I haven't perfected that at all, but it's helped as we navigate that, like trying to fill their love tank, at home, so that they're not sad that I leave. They're like
Right.
excited for me.
No, that's awesome. So what do you believe is kind of like like for you, the one character trait or personality that you have that makes you kind of like, this person that can overcome a lot of things, that can have a great belief system, right? That can spin things, to work in your favor versus the opposite. Like, what do you believe is that, character trait or personality?
That's such a tough question, man, because that's a multifaceted answer, right? Like for me, my relationship with God is the foundation that I know where he leads me is better than where I've been,
Mm,
period. I'm super optimistic because I've seen God's faithfulness. And I think by nature, like I have made the conscious decision to choose to follow people and voices that fill that space, to continue to make me feel like I can believe that even more. So I have like both beliefs and values I've created on my own. And Jesus is my anchor, and I follow people who believe the same things. So I've built like this fortress around my heart and my mind, that no matter what's going on, I'm not gonna let it pull me down and away from the mission at hand. It reminds me of this story in the Bible. There's this dude named Nehemiah. I don't know if you guys know his story out there listening, but basically, dude was like a professional Kool-Aid drinker. Like he tested the king's food to make sure it wasn't poison before he ate. That was his job. So, no degree, no other really great experiences that made him anybody special. But then he had this burning desire to go see God's city rebuilt because the city had been decimated. And so he prays about it for like 3 to 6 months, and God gives him all these crazy details to the plan. He goes to the king, gets permission, and then in record time, he goes and restores the city, builds the temple, the gates, the walls that have been burned down and broken. And when he's in the middle of it, he's got people attacking him, threatening him, all this stuff. And I remember there's a part of the story, and he says, the work that I'm doing is too great to come down and deal with you. And
mm,
in my life, I feel like that's where I'm at. There's all kinds of distractions, there's all kinds of temptations, there's all kinds of opportunities that got nothing to do with me and my calling. And I'm just at a place where what I've been called to do with my life is too great to come down and deal with that. I got to lead my family, and I got to speak life over a million students, and I got to mentor people as best I can. I got to help, I got to coach entrepreneurs to like step into their full kingdom potential. And that's a great work. And I just don't have time to step down and deal with the other stuff. Not in an arrogant way, just in a I won't be distracted by, and I won't be stopped or detoured by all that other stuff.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Well, listen, I know that we've been together here for for some time now. I know you got places to be, people to see, and family to love.
Always.
So can you give us like any parting piece of guidance, and then how can people reach out to you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I love to teach people is just this 4E mindset. And I'll just give it to you quick. I think that if you can at least start to take steps towards elevating your mindset every day, evaluating the relationships in your life on a regular basis, season by season, establish clear direction and remove the things that are distracting and get into alignment with your calling, your mission, all of that, your purpose, and then just really execute the play, take massive action. If you do those 4 things and look at them like a cycle, that by the time you start taking massive action, you can elevate your mind even more, evaluate your relationships even better, establish even more clear direction, take even more action because you're executing the play. It's a cycle that never ends. And the more you do that, I promise you, no matter where you are in life right now, you will change, absolutely change your life. You guys can follow me on any social media, man. It's just official Jason Queen. Anywhere. My website's officialjasonqueen.com, and that's primarily for speaking in schools. So if you want to bring me out to a school, speak life over students, teachers, holler at me there. But yeah, you can reach me on any of those platforms and connect with me. My hope is to inspire you and motivate you to step into the life you were created to live and not settle for anything less.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I wrote down my 4 E's.
Let's go.
Jason, thank you so much again for taking the time to be with us today. I know that most likely we will talk again.
Yeah, bro.
And last little thing, I was looking at all this stuff and I'm like, okay, so all this, but where's the book?
It's in process, my guy. It's coming. Be on the lookout.
I know it is.
It's coming.
So in a few months or so, whenever the book is out,
Less.
we'll have you back on it so we can kind of let us know about it. And I've recently finished the book, so I know that whenever you go into the book process, somehow God has a way of making you go through it, so that you can really become the expert. And sometimes it does, creates a lot of ripples inside of your life. So
yeah,
can't wait to reconnect again, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on the show. For you guys listening out there, I hope you've been inspired, and we'll connect soon.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
Bye.
Hey, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, make sure to drop a review. Let us know how you liked it, and what did you like about the episode that you listened to. Also, if this is your first time, make sure to subscribe so you can be notified as soon as we drop a new episode. And remember, accept compliments from everyone, limitations from no one. Talk to you soon. Bye.